client not guilty of both charges. Thank you.
Thank you, attorneys. We now begin with the evidentiary portion of the trial, and the state may call its first witness.
Yes, sir. People say Florida called Christine Gabin.
Do you swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Go ahead over this way for the witness.
And you may inquire of the witness.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Morning.
Can you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Christine Gabin, G-A-B-A-N,
Okay, Ms. Gabin, have you lived here in Fort Pierce all your life?
since I was 7 years old.
Okay, and let me take you back to August 24th of 2018. Do you remember what you were doing that day?
I left my house and in Spanish Lakes Fairways, went to Johnston Road, and was gonna take a shortcut to my granddaughters and went down Russo Road.
Okay. And you go down, and where did your granddaughter live?
She lives over all the other side of Emil Avenue.
Okay, and you left your home and you were going to your granddaughter's house?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you took a shortcut and you got on Russo's Road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and describe in as much detail as possible what happened and what you saw on August 24th of 2018.
Started down Russo, and I was looking out my windows, and there was like somebody had thrown bags of trash out the window, and so I got to the end of the road where Rusacus crosses, and I stopped, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, that's not what I saw, and I stopped and got my bearings again, and I thought, I think that was something more than just a bag laying there. So I turned around and I went back and saw that it was a body laying there. So I stopped and called 911.
Okay, and do you remember what time you called 911?
About 10:50.
Okay, and how do you remember that time?
I was very shocked, very upset, so I just sat there and waited for him to arrive.
Okay, and when you called 911, did you take a look at the timestamp on your phone?
Yes, I think it was like 10:54, something like that.
Okay, and the police officers arrived?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, without telling us what you said, because that would be inadmissible hearsay, but did you tell the police officer what you saw?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gabin, thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
No cross-search, thank you.
May this witness be released from her subpoena?
She may.
Any objection?
No objection.
Thank you, Ms. Gavin. You're released from your subpoena. That means you're free to stay or leave as you wish. You may step down to the witness stand. And the state's next witness or item of evidence.
Yes, sir. The people of the state of Florida call Deputy Josh Gilkley.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Over that way, Louis.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Can you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Deputy Joshua Gilkley, Gilkey.
Okay. And it's obvious based on your dress, what will you do for a living?
Road Patrol Deputy in St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Go ahead and give the jury a thumbnail sketch of your education, your training, and your experience, please.
I have an associate's degree in criminal justice. I've attended the basic academy for law enforcement. I'm a traffic homicide investigator, and I've worked for St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office for about 8 years now.
Okay. And were you working back on August 24th of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In what capacity were you working? What was your assignment?
Road Patrol Deputy.
Okay. And go ahead and just give the jury a brief summary of what a road patrol deputy does on a day-to-day basis.
Road Patrol Deputy typically responds to calls for service. So you call 911, and if it's within that area that I'm working, I will respond to that call. I also do routine traffic stops as well.
Okay. And on August 24th of 2018, were you on duty?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And describe for the jury how you were dressed.
We had a different uniform back then. It was like the other deputies in this room, polyester uniform. So I was dressed in that uniform.
Okay. And were you in a marked unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you receive a call or to respond to the area of Russo Road and Johnston Road in St. Lucie County?
I heard my zone partner, he got dispatched to the call. I just happened to be a little bit closer, so I arrived on scene first.
Okay. About how far, just give the jury an idea, about how far away is that area from Indira Road?
So it's approximately about a mile and a half.
Okay. And so you get dispatched and walk the jury in as much detail as possible what you see. You are the eyes to this jury, so walk them through what you see.
So whenever I first arrived on scene, I saw the caller in a black car, made contact with her. I believe her name was Christine Gabin. And she informed me that she had saw what could possibly be a deceased body down the road approximately 50 feet away from us to the east on the south side of the roadway.
Okay. And did you approach that body?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jury what you saw.
I saw what appeared to be a female body, and she appeared to be deceased at that time.
Okay. And what did you do in response?
I immediately determined that this was going to be an active crime scene due to there being a deceased female on the side of the roadway. Rescue was there with me as well. Nobody went up and touched the body or anything like that.
Did you touch the body?
No, sir.
Okay. I want to show you what has been marked as States Exhibits 116 and 117 for identification purposes. Take a look at those and tell me if you recognize those.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are those photos? What do they depict?
Those are photos of the deceased female laying face down.
Okay. And are those photos of the deceased female as they appeared on August 24th of 2018?
Yes.
Okay. And what time did you arrive on scene?
I believe it was approximately 11 a.m.
11 a.m. Okay. And are these photos fair and accurate representations of how the deceased female looked on August 24th of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, the state moves into evidence Exhibits 116 and 117.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
These two items will come into evidence without objection at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me remind you of something I told you on Thursday, since it's been 3 days in between. The items that officially come into evidence by my pronouncement take on a different significance. They're the actual evidence in the case. They will go back with you into the jury room during deliberations. There may be other items that are used during the trial that do not officially come into evidence, such as items used to refresh a witness's memory or a demonstrative aid here in court. That's not the actual evidence, will not go back with you into the jury room. Also, now that an item is officially in evidence, it may be shown to you or published to you by either of the attorneys. And you may proceed, Mr. Richardson.
And permission to publish, sir.
You may do so.
Okay. Okay, so as we're looking here at Exhibit 116, go ahead and describe for the jury and also for the record what we're looking at.
That is what I saw whenever I first arrived on scene and made contact with the body.
Okay. And Exhibit 117,
It's another angle.
same body.
Yes, sir.
And both of these depict the victim on August 24th of 2018.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And from that point forward, you're a road deputy, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then did you then notify detectives within the homicide division of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office?
I notified my supervisor, and supervisor makes the notifications from there.
Okay, so from that point forward, this was not your case, more homicide detectives came in and they began their investigation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deputy Gilkley. I have no further questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Cross-examination?
Just very briefly, sir, that area that you found the body in, that wasn't a wooded area, correct?
It's partially wooded. Just depends on where, but that's what I did.
Okay. Do you remember taking a deposition on this case?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember stating in the deposition when you asked if the area was wooded, you said, I wouldn't describe it as wooded?
Right.
No further questions?
Any further questions from the state?
No regret.
May Deputy Gilkey be released from the subpoena?
Yes, sir.
Any objection?
No objection.
Thank you, Deputy. You're released from your subpoena. You're free to stay or leave as you wish.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the state's next witness or item of evidence.
William Mullen.
Please swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
If you could, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
William Drew Mullen III, Mullan.
And what do you do for a living?
Self-employed.
All right. And back in 2018, did you own a business?
Yes.
Okay. And what business did you own?
There's a pizza restaurant in Vero Beach.
Okay. And during that time, would you ever have to travel along Russo Road in St. Lucie County?
Yes.
Okay. Why would you travel along that road?
It was just a cut through from my house to get to Vero, so like a back road, stay away from traffic, that kind of stuff.
So what I want to do is I want to go back to August 23rd of 2018.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Okay. Was there something that occurred that led you to reach out to law enforcement?
Yes. That was the, are you talking about this is the day, during the day, right?
Or during the nighttime?
During the nighttime.
Is there something
yes.
that you saw that on an evening along Russo Road?
Yes.
Okay.
What
What is it that you saw as you were? Well, first off, were you driving at night on August 23rd?
Yeah, I'm at night. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And
So,
where were you going?
I was going back home from the pizza place. So I was pulling onto Russo Road, and usually there's nobody on that road at that time of night, and just so happened to be a truck sitting there. So
All right. Now, before I ask you some questions about the truck, approximately what time of night is this?
this was between 11 and 11:30.
And if you could describe for the jury, you're turning down Russo Road.
Yes.
Describe for them what you see. If there is a vehicle, describe the vehicle. What do you see it doing?
Yeah. So as soon as I turned on the road, it was dark, and then all of a sudden, lights popped on. So it was probably about 150 yards down the road. So I thought that was very suspicious. So I started coming towards the vehicle, and that vehicle started coming towards me. I noticed it was a truck, and it was kind of creeping towards me. It was a silver or gray truck, you know, like a big truck, like a full-size truck, and it was like a clean truck. I noticed it had like shiny, like kind of chrome, you know, like rims and, you know, pieces on the truck and whatnot. You know, and then I just passed by the truck, so dark
Did-
tint windows.
And you described something happening with the lights when you saw the truck?
Yeah, as soon as I pulled on the road, it was like the fog lights had popped on right away. So, which I thought was suspicious, because instead of turning on all your lights, it was like fog lights. I feel like a lower light, you know, so.
And that's my next question. So you described it as fog lights.
Where would those lights be on the truck that you saw?
More down towards the bottom. So that's why I thought was suspicious. You know, it wasn't like your normal headlight that popped on. It was like a light, two lights that were on the bottom, so.
And as you approached the truck, what did it do?
Immediately started, you know, I could tell it just started like kind of creeping towards me. So as I was going east from Johnson Road, it started coming west towards Johnson Road.
All right, and then where did that truck end up going?
Since it was kind of weird, I was watching it in my rearview mirror. It stopped at the stop sign, and then it took a right, which would be north on Johnson Road.
And did you do anything in response at this time?
No, I mean, I just kept going and went home that night, you know, like normal, so.
So you didn't contact law enforcement?
Not that night, no.
All right, what caused you to end up to reaching out to law enforcement?
Well, this was my everyday route. So the next day when I was coming down that road, I noticed they had it blocked off. And I was coming west towards, I was on 27th Ave. I'm from Vero, so I call it 27th Ave. So then I went down to Indrio, went down, you know, then went west, got on Johnson Road, started going towards Vero, and then when I came up on Russo Road, I noticed that there was police officers parked there, and I had saw a tent set up right where I saw that truck. So I figured maybe I should stop and at least tell them what I saw the night before in case it had something to do with it, so.
And is that what you ended up doing?
Yes, I immediately pulled over on the side of the road and spoke with the detective.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
No cross-section.
Need Mr. Mullen be releasing his subpoena this time?
Yes, sir, amen.
Any objection?
No objection.
Mr. Mullen, you are releasing your subpoena. You're free to stay or leave as you wish. Thank you. And the state's next witness or item of evidence.
Yes, sir, the state calls Elizabeth Bedola.
Elizabeth Bola. Ma'am, if you can raise your right hand and face the clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Morning, ma'am. Can you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
My name is Elizabeth Bedola. Last name,
Scoot up to the microphone and maybe we could angle it since it amplifies her voice. There you go. Thank you.
okay. My name is Elizabeth Bedola, Bedolla.
Okay. And did you know a female by the name of Tania Wise?
Yes, she's my daughter.
Okay, she's your daughter. Okay. I want you to go ahead and describe Tania for us. So first, way back on August 23rd of 2018, how old was Tania?
She was 23.
I'm sorry?
She was 23.
Okay. And did she have children?
Yes. At home, she had an 8-year-old, Jamar, and she was pregnant.
Okay. How far along was she in her pregnancy?
She was about 8.5 months.
Okay. And had Tania decided on the name of the baby?
She decided that on the baby shower. It's Josiah Thomas Wise,
Okay, a boy.
a boy.
Okay. And did she live with you on August 23rd of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where did you guys live? What was the address?
2014 Southwest Larchmont Lane in Port St. Lucie.
Okay, is that located near Bayshore Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay, and is there like a is there a Winn-Dixie close to that area?
Yeah, if you continue the road, it's 2 blocks down. There's a Winn-Dixie.
Okay. Do you remember her phone number?
I believe so. It's 772-607.
Okay. And did you pay for her phone or did somebody else pay for it?
Bradley paid for it.
And what's Bradley's name?
Bradley, I think it's Rodriguez. I'm not sure if Rodriguez or Hernandez, one of the two.
Bradley Rodriguez?
Uh-huh.
Bradley Rodriguez Jr.?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go back and I want to focus you in on the events of August 23rd, 2018 in the evening time. Do you remember that time?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. What were you doing around 8 in the evening on that day in your house?
Me and my daughter, Tania, we had given her son a bath because he was going to school. So we gave him a bath around that time always. And I was going to get him dressed. She was going to go out. She needed to get drinks because he didn't have no drinks for lunch the next day.
Okay. And did she, about what time did she leave?
It's probably around anywhere between a little bit after 8. I'm going to say a little bit. I mean, I didn't exactly look at the clock, but I know it was a little bit after 8. Could have been 8:15, 8:20. It was around that time.
Okay. Okay. And when she left, where was she going again? I couldn't quite hear you. I'm sorry.
She was going to go get drinks for her son for school for his lunch.
Okay.
That's the purpose she left the house, because she had problems walking and everything because of her pregnancy. So she left just to get the drinks.
Okay. And was that the last time you ever saw your daughter Tania?
Yeah, by the door. Yes.
Okay. And are you aware if Tania had a follow-up doctor's appointment the following week?
Yes, it was a Tuesday for her C-section. They were going to schedule her C-section.
Okay. On the next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a scheduling appointment for her C-section.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any questions from the defense?
Ma'am, prior to your daughter's murder, you were aware that she was dating Bradley Rodriguez Jr., correct?
Yeah, they kind of had some type of relationship
Because he actually lived with you in your house, is that right?
for a short period of time.
Okay, and in March of 2013, you had actually kicked him out of your house, right?
Correct.
And that's because he got violent with Tania?
I didn't like the way he treated her, yes.
Okay, but he laid hands on her in front of you?
I don't recall seeing him hitting her at all, but I just didn't like the way he treated my daughter.
You were also aware that she was dating another gentleman by the name of Mark Burke?
Objection, relevance?
Overruling objection. You may answer the question.
She was dating him. Like she separated from Mark. They kept a friendship and she dated Mark.
Were you aware that Mr. Bradley Rodriguez Jr. would threaten Tania?
Objection, relevance, and exceeds the scope of direct examination.
I'm concerned about, no, I'll overrule the objection. You can answer the question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Were you aware that Mr. Bradley Rodriguez Jr. had been threatening Tania?
At one point she had mentioned it to me.
Did you believe that Bradley Rodriguez Jr. was the father of your daughter's child?
I did.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection as to what this person's opinion was is irrelevant for purposes of the trial.
Around August 15th or 16th of that year, you took your daughter to Bradley Rodriguez Jr.'s house to pick up the baby clothes, is that right?
Yes.
And you told law enforcement that Mr. Burke actually was also abusive with your daughter, right?
Objection, hearsay?
Hold on a second.
I'll rephrase the question.
Okay, if you want to rephrase it.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Burke was violent with your daughter, correct?
I think he was.
Had your daughter just started speaking with another gentleman who went by the nickname of Casino, but whose real name was Jared Christie?
That was her friend, yes.
I don't have any further questions.
Please direct from the state.
No regret.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down from the witness stand. And the state's next witness or item of evidence.
Yes, sir. The people of the state of Florida call Dr. Linda O'Neill.
Raise your right hand and face the
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
over this video.
You may quietly wait.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Linda Rush O'Neill, O''Neil.
Okay. And Miss O'Neill, what did you do for a living back on August 23rd of 2018, 25th of 2018?
I was an associate medical examiner for District 19 Medical Examiner's Office in the state of Florida.
Okay. Can you give the jury a thumbnail sketch of your education, your training, and your experience, please?
I graduated from the University of Memphis in 1987 with a Bachelor's of Science degree. Following that, I attended East Tennessee State University Quillen College of Medicine, where I graduated with a medical degree in 1992. After that, I did a 5-year residency program, which I completed in St. Louis at St. Louis University Hospital in St. Louis. After that, I did a 1-year fellowship training in forensic pathology at the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office in Broward County, Florida.
Okay. And are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of Florida?
I am.
Okay. And I want to talk specifically about your career track. And you just mentioned Broward County. So can you go ahead and elaborate on that for the jury? What did you do in Broward County?
I joined there. I did my fellowship training there, and then I joined as an associate medical examiner there in January of 1999. I continued to work for the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office until 2004, and then I became an associate medical examiner for the West Palm Beach County Medical Examiner's Office, and I was there until May of 2009, which at that time I joined the District 19 Medical Examiner's Office, and I was there until I retired in 2020.
Okay. And go ahead and just give the jury a general description of what a medical examiner does on a day-to-day basis.
Basically, in the state of Florida, a medical examiner is investigating certain deaths that fall under their jurisdiction. Most of them, of which we do autopsy examinations on, and the autopsy examinations are done to determine cause and manner of death.
Okay. And go ahead and describe what an autopsy is. Give the jury an overview about what an autopsy is. What an autopsy is. I'm sorry.
Basically, an autopsy is an examination of a deceased person. It's an external examination of the body and an internal examination of the body. The external examination of the body is not only just the characteristics of the body, female, male, height, weight, also whatever's on the body, be clothing or anything else that you would find on the body. Evidence would be collected from the body. Then there would be documentation of injuries or any other kind of abnormalities on the external part of the body. Photographs would be taken during all these parts of the autopsy examination. Sometimes x-rays are taken prior to the internal examination, and then an internal examination is done in which the chest cavity is open, the abdominal cavity is open, the cranial cavity is open, and all the organs inside those cavities are taken out and examined.
Okay. And approximately how many autopsies have you performed in your entire career?
I don't remember the exact count, but when I retired, it was over 5,000.
Okay. And have you ever testified in circuit court regarding your findings from an autopsy?
I have,
Approximately how many times?
over 100 times.
Okay.
I don't have an exact number.
Sure. And were you working on August 25th of 2018?
I was.
Okay. And what were you doing that day?
That day, on August 25th of 2018, I became involved with the case of Tania Wise and did an autopsy examination on her that morning.
Okay. And what materials did you review in order to form your opinions in this case?
You mean just recently or
Ever.
at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, obviously, all the findings of the medical examiner's office, any information that would be given to me by law enforcement or their personnel, laboratory findings, because we do other things like toxicology analysis and microscopic examinations. We did x-ray examinations on her body, so all of those would have been involved in determining the cause and manner of death.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned a toxicology test.
Yes.
Was it, we'll start there. Was a toxicology test performed on Tania Wise?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and first explain what the toxicology test is and what it's testing for.
During the autopsy examination, we take blood and other body fluids. Those are sent to a laboratory that does the toxicology testing. They test for, they do drug screen and alcohol screen, testing for the presence of those in the body, and that was done in this case.
Okay. And what were the results?
The results in this case, I took heart blood from her body, and the heart blood showed a level of 0.017 grams per deciliter of ethanol. Also, at the time of the autopsy, I took vitreous fluid, which is fluid from the eye, and that was tested and showed no ethanol present in that specimen.
Okay. And ethanol is alcohol?
Correct.
Okay. So can you go ahead and explain to the jury why that number for ethanol is important to them?
Yes. In this case, there was some decomposition occurring, and ethanol can be created by bacteria that is in the body and is affecting the body after when decomposition starts. It can create ethanol in the body. So her level was so small that in all likelihood, in my opinion, it's from the decomposition, because the vitreous fluid in the eye, there's none present. And also, on this particular autopsy, there was a collection of blood in the cranial cavity called subdural hemorrhage, which would be unlikely as affected by bacterial decomposition than the heart blood would be. And it showed no evidence of ethanol either. So none in the vitreous fluid, none in the ocular fluid, and just a small amount in the heart blood fluid.
Okay. Is that more consistent with decomposition and inconsistent with ingesting alcohol like beer, wine, etc.?
Yes.
And did you, and I think you mentioned it earlier, but as part of your autopsy, do you take photos to document the injuries and the other important aspects of the autopsy?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been marked as States Exhibits number 118 through 143. If you could take a look at those for me for a second. What were those numbers, Mr. Richard? 118 to 143.
These are all photographs from the autopsy examination.
Okay. And those exhibits right there, 118 through 143, are those fair and accurate depictions of the autopsy that you performed on Tania Wise and her baby Josiah?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state moves into evidence 118 to 143.
Any objection?
No objection.
Those items will come into evidence without objection.
And permission to publish.
You may.
Okay. So here we're looking at exhibit number 118. Go ahead and just briefly describe what we're looking at here, Dr. Emil.
This is an initial photograph. This is how she was at the medical examiner's office before we started any of the examination. So it's an initial photograph showing her at the medical examiner's office.
Okay. And is it part of your process for every autopsy to take photographs like this where the victim comes in or the body comes in and you take initial photographs without unclothing them first?
Yes.
Okay. And let's advance to exhibit number 119. And same question, what are we looking at here?
This is an identification photograph. This is taken after the body is cleaned so we can get a good picture of the face for identification.
Okay. And I first noticed there's some red marks on her face and shoulders and chest and arms. Can you explain to the jury what that is?
One of the things that happens after we die is the postmortem settling of the blood, which is called livor mortis or lividity. When we die, our blood stops moving in our body and it will settle to the dependent area by gravity. So if you're on your back, it can settle on the back. If you're lying face down, it could settle on the front of the body. And for a period of time, that can move. Like for a period of time, if someone was on their face and moved over to their back, the lividity can move to the back and vice versa, or in any other way that gravity is affecting the body. But after a certain amount of time, that lividity becomes fixed, which means that it's not going to move when the body moves. So it's fixed in the position of the dependent gravity in a body position.
Okay. And if we could advance to exhibit number 120, please. Okay. So here we are looking at exhibit number 120. What exactly do you see here, doctor, that's important to you?
This is a photograph of a wound on the top of the head. It's on the top of the head, but the posterior aspect, so the top back of the head. You can see there, through the head hair, you can see that there is a large wound that's visible.
Okay. And exhibit number 121, please.
Again, that's a close-up, showing that this is a gaping wound, and it's a full-thickness gaping wound, because even now, even with head hair there, you can see at the bottom of that photograph skull, you can see visible skull through the margins of the wound.
Okay. And exhibit number 122, please.
This is that same wound.
123.
This is after the head hair around it has been shaved, so you can get a better look at the margins of the wound and the tissue involving the wound, and then again you can see the skull through the base of that laceration.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, we're looking at exhibit 122 here. Okay, so tell us about this wound, doctor. Can you go into more detail about that wound? First of all, what you believe caused it, and what were the consequences from it?
Well, this type of wound is a blunt trauma injury, meaning that it's a forceful blow to the body. Blunt trauma injuries include bruises or contusions. It includes abrasions, scraping of skin. It includes lacerations, which is kind of a crush and tear injury of the skin. And fractures are also common blunt trauma injuries. In this case, this wound is a full thickness laceration or blunt force trauma. And there is fracture of the skull too underlying this. So this is a full thickness laceration, full thickness blunt force injury, which would have been a very forceful blow with some type of heavy object. I can't say specifically what that object was.
Is this something that could have been caused by human hands, or does it require something heavier and more substantial?
I cannot think of a way that this could have been caused by a human hand.
Okay. So when you say a heavy object, can you elaborate on that?
Objection, judge calls for speculation.
Overrule the speculation, objection, so long as it's within your ability as a doctor to describe it with some specificity.
Heavy object being something not lightweight, something with some weight to it, and it would be used forcefully to cause this injury.
Okay. Would it have had to have had a sharp edge to it at some point?
This is a blunt force injury, so blunt force injuries wouldn't necessarily be caused by anything sharp. There's no sharp margin of the wound. When you think of a laceration is kind of a tearing, a crush and tearing injury. Like if you had a piece of material and you tore it and you have those little bridging fibers between it, that's kind of what happens with a laceration that you can see in that photograph. A sharp force injury is going to have smoother margins, like if you had that same material and you cut it with scissors, and it would be nice and smooth on each side. So this is a blunt force injury.
Okay. And if we could advance to the next slide, which is exhibit 123. 123, what are we looking at here?
This is the same wound. In the previous photographs, it's gaping open. So we try to reapproximate the margins to see if we can get any other identifying features. Not necessarily to determine right from the picture what it was, but if we have something that we could compare it to later, it might help, in that comparison.
In exhibit 124.
That is the same wound, reapproximated with the margins pushed together. You can see there's some perpendicular lacerations extending from the margins of the wound.
Okay. And how long was this wound?
The wound was 9 centimeters in length, which is approximately 3.5 inches.
Okay. And go ahead and describe the consequences of this wound. What conditions did you see? What flowed from that?
Well, on the internal examination, when the skin is removed from the scalp, there's a skull fracture that's visible. And then when the top of the cranium is taken off, when we look at the brain inside, there's actual bruising of the brain. There's subarachnoid hemorrhage of the brain, which is the thin layer that covers the brain itself. And then the dura, which is a thicker membrane around the brain, there was subdural hemorrhage or hemorrhage underneath that dura. So it not only affected the skin and the skull, it also affected the brain.
Okay. And when you say subdural hemorrhage, what exactly does that mean?
That means that there's collection of blood, that there was bleeding inside the cranial cavity that collected in the subdural space.
Okay. And you also used a word that I have the same question for, subarachnoid hemorrhage. What is that?
The arachnoid layer is a very thin, translucent tissue that covers the external part of the brain. And so it would be hemorrhage underneath that layer.
And you indicated that there was a skull fracture present as well?
Correct.
Okay, can you describe that for the group?
The skull fracture starts at the point where you see this laceration, and it curves around to the left side of the skull, the left parietal and frontal region of the skull. So it's a linear fracture extending from the point of the blow.
Okay. And is there also cerebral edema
Yes.
present? Can you explain to the jury what that is?
When the brain undergoes trauma like this, one of the things that quickly happens is the brain swells because of the injury. So cerebral edema is swelling of the brain.
Dr. O'Neill, can you, based on your training and experience, can you describe for the jury, as best you can, how much force was used to cause the injuries to Miss Wise's head that we've seen thus far?
What I can say is it's extreme force. It's one forceful blow with an instrument that would be heavy enough to create that wound.
Okay. Is the wound that you just described and the pictures that correspond to it, would that have automatically rendered Miss Wise unconscious, or could she have maintained at least some measure of consciousness after receiving that blow?
It may or may not have rendered her immediately unconscious.
Okay. And I want you to set aside the other injuries and just focus on this injury, okay? If we set aside those injuries, is this head wound, is this head injury sufficient by itself to cause death, assuming that there's no immediate medical attention that Miss Wise could have received?
Yes, this one could have caused death.
Okay. Now, as we're sitting here, you've just described the injury, we've seen the photos. Let me ask you this. Did Miss Wise feel a high degree of pain as a result of this injury?
Objection, calls for speculation.
And I think you could approach.
And then let's proceed to the next exhibit. What number is it? Okay. We're looking at 125, I'm sorry. Go ahead and describe this for the jury.
This is a photograph of the same injury. The skull is present at the base.
Okay. And 126? What are we looking at here?
This is a photograph of the skull after the scalp has been removed. During the autopsy examination, we make an incision across the top of the scalp and reflect it forward and reflect it backward. So this injury, that you can see the skull is visible, the entire skull is visible. And you can see that linear, there's a line that's going in the picture, it's horizontal, just above where the ruler is, and that's the fracture. The point of impact being on the right side of that, and then that linear fracture extending across that photograph.
Okay. And the next exhibit? Which is what? We're looking at 127 here. Go ahead and explain what we're looking at here.
Again, that is the fracture, linear fracture. The top of the head is actually just above the ruler there. The top of the head is towards the right. So that would have been underlying that point of impact. And then you see the linear fracture. It gives you a little bit better location of how that fracture starts at the top posterior part of the head and then goes around the left side of the skull.
Okay. And 128, please. Okay. Again, what are we looking at?
This is a photograph of the brain after the skull cap has been removed. You can see there's darker red regions of the brain, and then there's more pink or lighter regions of the brain. The darker red regions are where there is hemorrhage and contusion of the brain. And that would be, there's a little thin translucent membrane, that's the subarachnoid membrane that we were talking about, and you can see that there's hemorrhage underneath that.
Okay. And the next exhibit, which is 129. Okay, so let's transition from the head injury to other injuries over the body. What were the locations on the body that you observed additional injuries?
There was a large incised wound that extends from the front of the neck to the back of the neck. And then in this photograph, you see a smaller incised wound, which is on the left clavicular region of the body, so just near the left clavicle. That's an incised wound. That's a sharp wound. If you look at the margins of that wound, you see they're nice and smooth. So it's caused by something that's sharp.
I believe we're looking at 129 here. And go ahead and, I believe you said this was on the clavicle?
In the clavicular region of, yes.
Okay. And how deep and long was this wound?
This one was 2 centimeters in length and 0.5 centimeters in depth. To give you a comparison, 2.54 inches is related to a centimeter. So, 2.54 inches. I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll move on to Exhibit 130. What are we looking at here?
This is the incised wound of the neck. This wound starts in the front of the neck and goes around to the right side of the neck and to the right back of the neck. This is the incised wound at the anterior margin, and it's really bifurcated. Right here, you're seeing one margin of that wound. If we go to another photograph, I think you'll see that there's more than.
Yes, ma'am.
Just-
Go to 131.
Right. So this is the wound margin when the head is tilted back, and you can see that there are 2 distinct lines, a V-shaped bifurcation of the anterior part of the neck where this incised wound starts at the front of the neck. You can see it goes full thickness through the skin, and then it goes around the side of the neck to the back of the neck. In this case, there are 2 wound tracts that merge. So there's 2 incised wounds that merge into one wound tract.
Meaning that there were 2 wounds, not one. This is not one continuous wound. This is 2.
2, yes.
And can you explain and describe for the jury how long each wound was as well as the depth?
Yes. I believe I said it backwards before. So an inch is 2.54 centimeters, to give you, I think I said it backwards last time. But this wound in centimeters was 19 centimeters in length. And in inches, that would be 7.5 inches in length.
And the depth?
The depth of the wound ranged from in the deepest part of that wound, it went to 1.5 inches. And in other areas, is 1 1/4 inches in depth.
Okay. At any point along that wound, did it approach or even touch the neck bone or any bone in the neck?
At its deepest margin on the lateral neck, you could see the cervical vertebrae at the base of the wound, yes.
And describe the amount of force that would have had to have been used to create those wounds that we're seeing here in Exhibit 131.
This would have been caused with a sharp force instrument. So it's a cutting, incised, sharp force injury. So depending on the wound and how sharp it was, it would depend on the force.
You mean the instrument? You said the wound and how sharp it was. You mean the instrument?
The instrument would have a sharp edge, yes.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so depending on the instrument and the sharpness of the instrument, that would depend on how much force it would take to create these injuries.
Okay. And what is the directionality of these incised wounds?
These wounds start on the front of the neck and end on the posterior part of the neck,
Okay. So front to back.
front to back.
And if we could advance to the next slide. Okay, now we're looking at Exhibit 132. Go ahead and describe this for the jury.
So this is on the right side of the neck. This is where those two incised wounds have merged together and have created one larger incised wound. And you're looking at that wound gaping open on the right side of the neck.
Okay. And the next exhibit? 133.
Again, that's the incised wound. You can see the bifurcation on the anterior neck. And then on the right side of the neck, you can see that there is depth to this wound. You can see where it's gaping open. Those are the regions where it went the deepest on the right side of the neck.
And Exhibit 134.
This is showing the wound approaching towards the back of the neck. So this is the right side of the neck, and the wound continues to the posterior right neck.
Okay. And Exhibit 135. What are we looking at?
Because there's an incised wound of the neck, we want to see what things were damaged by that. There's obviously skin, soft tissue, and some muscular damage because of the sharp force trauma. But also we're looking at the vessels, what vessels would have been affected in the neck. In this photograph, you can see the forceps is holding up. This is the external right jugular vein that's completely transected. You can see the hole underneath the forceps, where the forceps holding it open. That's the jugular vein incised open.
Okay. And just a little bit more detail. What is the purpose, or what does the jugular vein do?
The external jugular vein, it drains blood from our scalp and face. It's draining it from our head in those regions and taking it back to the heart.
Okay. And and we're seeing here that the external jugular vein has been cut or severed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you describe for the jury the amount of loss of blood that would have resulted from this wound?
Well, this wound, there would be quite a bit of blood lost from this wound, and this blood loss from this wound could cause death in and of itself if it's not medically treated.
Okay. And the next slide. 136 we're looking at here?
That's a close-up of that external jugular vein. You can see it better in this photograph. The opening there is the external jugular vein incised open.
Okay. And Exhibit 137.
And this is the posterior neck. So you can see that this incised wound goes all the way around from the front of the neck, the right side of the neck, to the back of the neck.
And I want to return to the head injury for a second. Okay. As you know from the materials, the victim was found in near some vomit. Can you describe to the jury what would have caused the vomit?
Well, nausea and vomiting is not uncommon with head wounds and head trauma. So in this instance, that type of head injury could induce vomiting.
Is there a relationship between the victim vomiting and the loss of consciousness or the ability to stay conscious?
No.
And did you observe?
Could you maybe ask and clarify that question and answer? I'm not sure I understood.
Okay. With respect to the vomit, okay, when somebody vomits, does that mean that, can someone vomit in a state of unconsciousness?
Yes.
Okay. And did you observe any defensive wounds on Miss Wise's body?
I did not.
Okay. And based on the materials that you've read and your overall understanding of the case, based on your examination and your photographs and everything that you've described, can you tell the jury what can you tell the jury about the time of death in this case?
Time of death is it's a very difficult thing to determine. There are factors that we look at to see if we can narrow down a time frame. Basically, when we're looking at time of death, in a case like this where a body is found outside, we start with the window that's the easiest, which is when do we know they were last alive, when can we verify they were alive, and then when were they found. So that's the time frame we start with. As far as I recall, I believe she was last known to be alive around 8 o'clock the night prior. And then she's seen by a passerby close to 11 o'clock in the morning the next day. So that's our time frame window. And then we look at other factors of the body to see if we can make any determination of anything that we can narrow that down. One of the things that we look at is the stiffening of the body. Stiffening or rigidity or rigor mortis is when the body, after someone dies, because of reactions that are happening in the muscle fibers of the body is first flaccid, then it becomes stiff, fully stiff for a certain period of time, and then that stiffness goes away. Typically, under normal circumstances, that rigidity, it would take approximately 12 hours for it to become really full, so a person is really fully stiff. Then it would stay about 12 hours, and then after that, it would go away in 12 hours. So in about 36 hours, they've gone through the whole range. She was seen there at 10:53. Investigator from our office was at this scene around 1 o'clock and noted that there was full rigidity. So at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on August the 24th, she was in full rigidity. Another thing that we look at when we're looking at the body is the lividity that we just discussed. The lividity is the pooling of the blood. The blood goes to where the lowest point that gravity is taking it, and it will stay there. And if it stays there and the body's not moved, it becomes fixed. In other words, even if we move the body after that, that lividity is not going to move. That usually takes somewhere between 8 and 12 hours. So in her case, at 1 o'clock, and the investigator's there, she's moved, and her lividity is on the interior part of the body. So the next day, when I do the examination of the body, it's still on the anterior part of the body, which means it was fixed there. So at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that was fixed. So if we look at those time frames, assuming, that the rigidity is there at 1 o'clock and the lividity is fixed at 1 o'clock, it could be at least 12 hours from the time of her death, and it can be longer, up to 24, which we know it wasn't that long because we know that she was alive. So.
Before you continue on with your examination, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to take our mid-morning bathroom break for 10 minutes. Please remember, leave your notes on your chairs. Do not discuss the case with each other. Please proceed to the jury room. Feel free to use the restrooms, and we'll be with you in about 10 minutes. All right, jury has exited the courtroom. We'll take a 10-minute bathroom break, recess. We'll come back in 10 minutes. Go off the record.